welcome Toby O'Rourke, President, CEO, Campgrounds of America, Inc. We, as part of our video series that we put together in the last stretch of 2020, and in which we're trying to gauge where the heck we all are, where we've been, where we are. And there's a lot of unknowns, so as we say that. Toby, you're coming off your virtual convention. Obviously, KOA's first ever virtual convention. For you, the in-person KOA convention was a huge deal. Mm-hmm. It was right up there with Arvik as far as campground functions, and maybe bigger. My point is, how'd that go?
Well, you're right. Convention's a very important time for us as part of our KOA family, because something that's a big part of being part of a franchise system is being part of a system and coming together, and that camaraderie and the learning that our owners have with each other and that ability to connect. It's very, very critical to what we do here. And so we were thrown off a bit when we had to rethink how we would do convention, and ultimately went down the path of a virtual convention. And I can't even describe how pleased I am with how it went. I'm really, really proud of our team and what they put together. We made the decision to invest quite a bit of money into it. So we built a separate platform for convention, a separate platform for the expo. We engaged production companies to help us with that, and partners that we've had for a long time that produce our live convention helped us on the virtual side. We have been producing content since September, filming those video series, getting the workshops ready, and so that everything was nicely packaged. And we kept some of the things that I think made it special to us is, we always have an MC of our convention. And for years we've had Clint Bell, who is a franchisee from our some properties in California, and he's a professional auctioneer and professional MC, but he's always been the thread that ties everything together. Well, we brought that same format online, and it sounds small to say it, but when you sat there and watched it, it was almost like you were there in person. It didn't just feel like you're clicking into a Zoom call, clicking onto the next link and going into the next Zoom call. It felt like we were together because we had a lot of consistency of the elements that we have when we are in person. So I was very pleased. We had 800 people interact with our convention. We charged on a per campground basis, so people can invite their staffs, and we really encourage people to bring more people into the fold to engage with the content. So very pleased with the numbers and the engagement that we saw.
Toby, is it fair that some of what you did for the virtual convention will probably find its way going forward, even with the in-person conventions?
Right, I think so. I think we learned a lot, and we found ways to connect with a broader audience. And I think any convention we have going forward will have some form of virtual component. So even if we're back together next year, we're supposed to be in Baton Rouge, fingers crossed we will have an online component so that we can bring more people to convention.
Silver lining it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on your opening day address, the way I get it, you really reviewed the year 2020 and how KOA somehow ran against the grain of what's happening in so many other elements of the travel industry, cruises, etc., and who would have known that it would occur like this, by how KOA jump-started, so to speak, after the shutdown.
We did, and you're right. One thing I reflected on in my opening speech was the fact that travel spending in the US and Canada is down dramatically, and occupancy levels at hotels are hovering around 35% in both countries right now. But that's definitely not what we've seen in the camping business. So right during that shutdown period, we were down 43%, 225,000 cancellations. When we break the year into segments, that shutdown period, which I define as, mid-March to mid-May, we were down 43%. So, very catastrophic, and KOA is no different than every other campground out there. That was a tough time. And then coming back, into that reopening phase, starting, end of May through August, we were close to flat to last year, down just slightly. And last year was our best year on record. So really saw a surge of, interest in camping, both from people that traditionally camp wanting to get back out there. But, research we've done shows that almost half of campers this year were either new or they had restarted after having not camped for some time. So a lot of new people coming into camping. And then since Labor Day, the fall has exploded. We're up 27% since Labor Day over last year. And we're just seeing that momentum continuing, right, headed into next year as people are starting to plan their spring vacation. So it's been a really phenomenal year for camping in the outdoors because people were looking for alternative ways to vacation. They still wanted to do something. And people said that they felt camping was a safe form of travel for a variety of reasons. And I think that that's what we're all feeling the effects of in the industry right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you, according to my notes, experienced about a 45% spike down during the shutdown itself.
We did.
And you wind up finishing the year within a few percent of 2019, which was your best year ever.
Yes, right now you're right. So during that time frame, mid-May, we were sitting 40% down to last year. And currently today, we're about 1.8% down to last year.
No
And
kidding.
every week, we measure that every week, and I'm still aiming to get flat to last year, which would be a huge story. You're right, last year was the best year on record. And frankly, the franchise system right now, if we just took our franchisees, we are flat to last year. We're down on our company-owned side. And that's driven from a few things. We made some decisions early on to close down all of our cabin accommodations for a couple months right away when COVID hit. So that's a huge impact to business. And several of our larger, more destination-oriented locations were shut down, such as Moab was shut down completely. Santa Cruz, California was shut down. Nashville has really struggled to come back. And our two parks in near Niagara Falls, both on the US and the Canada side, have essentially had very limited business this year because the border's not open. So that's what's driving our company-owned properties numbers down. But collectively across the board, we're just 2 points shy of last year, which we're really excited about.
Stunning, isn't it, Rick?
Impressive.
Yep. So then I go back to my homework here. I guess we ask you about what particular lessons you as a CEO, you as a senior management person, what are your takeaways? Almost the penultimate challenge for a CEO is to steer a ship through this thing. What takeaways might you be able to tell us about?
Yeah, this was very challenging. And as you know, I'm fairly new in my tenure as CEO here. This is just a year and a half in, I guess, as being CEO. So I like to always, joke with Pat Hittmeyer that he got out right at the right time, and he maybe foreshadowed something, I don't know. But it was challenging. And I since my time here over the past 10 years, we've had year over year growth. And myself and many of our executives here had never been at KOA through a down year. And so when we headed into this situation, we had to really, things we had taken for granted weren't there anymore. And we had to stop and really get smart. And I loved the challenge because I think that made me a better CEO on the other side. And we put in place early a discipline of every 2 weeks updating our forecasts and our cash flow and operating income forecasts for the year. And we went through, it takes a long time for us to do that across all of the different components of our business, but we put that in place every 2 weeks. And then that allowed us to make better decisions. So we were able to cut capital expenditures. We were able to do some different things with staffing. We had a pipeline of acquisitions, that we were going to look to purchase in the spring that we had to put on hold. We're in the process of trying to build a new office building. We had to stop that project. And we wouldn't have been able to make those decisions had we not gone through the proper financial disciplines. it also taught me a lot about the business of franchising. And, you know, we're partners. It's a unique relationship. You know, we're partners with our franchisees. But ultimately, we're here to make these business owners as successful as possible. And so we had to all hands on deck quickly. What do we need to do to help our franchisees, you know, these small and mid-sized business owners across the country? And sometimes that was working directly at a government lobbying level with state or local or national officials to keep campgrounds open. We had to put together operations guidelines. We had to get local marketing in their hands, so to help them drive their business. And it just, you know, we made a decision also early on to reimburse our franchisees for lost deposits and lost cancellation fees in March and April. And that was a big deal. And that was actually a very tough decision because that had a huge financial impact on the company, but it was the right thing to do in that franchise relationship. That's before government aid was coming in. And I also felt like it was very important to maintain the integrity of our brand to campers. We wanted to make sure they had a consistent experience when they were navigating how their travel had to change. So I do think I'm a much better leader. I learned a lot. You know, maybe we didn't always make we had some missteps probably along the way, but we've learned a lot, and we're going to be a stronger company because of it.
Toby, I didn't want you to gloss over that too much. You mentioned it was a big deal to reimburse your franchisees. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that something to the tune of $6.5 million?
No, not our initial estimates when we projected what we thought it was going to be was 5 million.
Okay.
And ultimately on the other side of it, it turned out to be about 3.5.
Okay.
And so, but that's a pretty big impact to our cash flow that we had to navigate around. And I made that decision very quickly. You know, it was in the midst of all the cancellations happening. It was mid-March, and there was a lot of stress happening on the camper side, on the franchisee side. Made that decision very, very quickly. Ultimately, I would probably make the exact same decision. And, you know, fortunately, our business really rebounded, and we've had a really great year because of it. And, you know, that 3.5 million, while I don't consider that loss. That was an investment in our partnership. And so I think we do the exact same thing. Yeah.
I think it was a masterful move for what it's worth, what I think that I do, to build long-term loyalty out of a crisis atmosphere. Okay, we're in the downstroke here. I guess I wanted to ask you about Terramore, because that was 2020 as well. A new kind of a Terramore outdoor resort, a new kind of a facility for KOA near Acadia National Park. Tell me about that and how that's gone through this timing.
Yeah, I'd love to. We're really proud of Terramore. We started this project 3 years ago, I guess. We have 2 campgrounds in Bar Harbor. They're just a couple miles apart from each other. One's right on the ocean, and one is in a little more inland in a beautiful, wooded area. And we decided a few years ago to do something different with that one that was inland in the woods. And we really wanted to develop something with unique accommodations, and we decided to go full in on developing, a glamping experience. We decided to brand it separately from the KOA brand because we're targeting, in our minds, a different customer. We're looking at people who go to boutique hotels, who maybe when they come to an area, they're looking for the unique VRBO option or that boutique hotel, and they may or may not be campers. And we didn't want to confuse the experience. So we've been working on this quite a while. We were planning to open in May. The pandemic slowed that dramatically because we had supply chain issues in getting all of our stuff here for our tents. We have 60 canvas tents there, beautifully outfitted, a very luxurious experience. We also had staffing issues, like much of the country did, and Maine had pretty restrictions, right, on travel well into August. So we ended up pushing our opening to August 1st. And blew our expectations away. You know, even in the midst of the pandemic, we were able to achieve over 90% occupancy in August, September, and into October before we closed. Very high demand for the product. We were able to receive some great media attention. We had lots of people coming that saying, you know, we were going to do something else this year and the pandemic hit, so we decided to try this. So I think we benefited in some regards for, again, people looking for unique outdoor vacation options. And we learned a lot, you know, those first couple months about getting this new brand and concept open. So we're pretty bullish on Terramore. You know, we're making some improvements to the park for next year, changing a few things operations wise, and we're looking to expand. So we want to take this concept other places because we know it's going to work. Definitely proved that out even in just the few short months we were open. So we're pretty excited about it.
It's almost, it's amazing. It does not in any way involve a recreation vehicle unless somebody
No.
pulls into the
We
park.
just, at the main property in Maine, we just have canvas tents. Like I said, we have 60 tents, and they all have bathrooms. Some have outdoor showers. They're, you know, beautifully done. And you're right, no RVs and no hard-sided accommodations. Now, as we look to expand Terramore, we may have cabins, you know, more hard-sided accommodations depending on the area of the country we are and the weather. But we don't envision this being a place for RVs ever at Terramore. It's something different.
I think this may be my last direction here. It's related to that one. The word glamping, which we keep hearing more and more. You know, you talk about Terramore and you think glamping. These aren't pup tents. These are tents with floors and, like you say, bathrooms, etc. But is this glamping thing, to the extent that I understand it, the way of the future, or at least a way of the future?
I believe so. You know, when we did our Campground of the Future concept work a couple years ago, we really looked at people are looking for unique experiences, and I don't think that's going to change. And that's where glamping, you know, is rising in popularity. We purposely didn't use the word glamping in our branding. We call this Terramore Outdoor Resort. I don't know if glamping will eventually become a buzzword or something that falls off, you know, in our nomenclature, or an overused word. I don't know. But the concept of people wanting unique experiences outdoors, I think, will continue to increase in popularity. And you're right. This is not sleeping on the ground. This is not pitching your own tent. This is essentially like you're at a very nice hotel that when you step outside, you've got, you know, your own campfire space and you're in the outdoors. So it's a very unique experience. And I think it is a future trend. I don't think it replaces RVing. It doesn't replace traditional camping. It's just bringing new people that maybe hadn't thought about coming outdoors into this environment.
All right. I think we're there, Rick.
I was just going to ask you one last question, if that's all right. And that's look ahead to 2021. We're 27% up, or you're 27% up for the fall. Do you have any projections for next year?
Good question.
Yeah, we are working really hard right now to lock in our budgets for next year. And it's been a challenge, frankly, to forecast. You know, we were headed into the year, up until mid-March last year, we were 10.5% up over the previous year. So, and that's how we're trending right now, right? We're up. We've got good momentum heading into next year. All these new people that started camping last year, I think are going to continue. Do I think we'll have a 27% up fall next year? I don't necessarily think so. I think there'll be some normalization to that, but I expect 2021 to be much stronger than 2019. 2020, we're pretty much wiping it off. We're not taking that into account. We're building our budgets off of 2019 and definitely plussing those up, taking into account the strong demand there is for camping right now and interest in camping. That is just going to continue based off the momentum that the business has right now.
But related to that, since you brought it up, the capacity, the ability of your 500 plus parks to handle this latest run of reservations, is KOA up to it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're up to it. And we've got really resilient owners that are focused on growing their businesses. You know, people for the past few years have been expanding their parks. They're buying additional land. They're adding more sites. They're optimizing the layouts of their current operations to add more sites. It was definitely a busy year, but everyone, while they're tired right now, they were energized by the demand that they saw for our business. So, you know, people are building campgrounds again. We've signed 9 new construction contracts this year. And over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5, we've had over 40 new construction contracts. So there's a lot of activity happening in the campground space. And, you know, and I know there's a lot of work being done to make sure the public spaces are being improved for camping. So I think the whole industry, from RVIA to RVIC to companies like mine, are focused on making sure that people have a place to camp. And we're all doing our part to make sure that that happens.
Rick, you got another one?
No, I think we've covered it.
All right. Toby, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We
you.
appreciate it, and have a good day.
Thank you. Take care.